What's up, football fans? I'm Youth One National Scouting Director and Football Editor, Al Pops, here with my West Coast man, Ryan Lance. This week at Youth One, we're breaking down the FBU National Championship, the biggest party in youth football. We're here to preview all 64 teams and the top players in each region with the best chance of making an impact in the tournament. Today, we're taking a look at the South region, which is broken down into 4 regional sites: Kentucky, Atlanta, West Palm Beach, and Naples, with 4 teams at each site. Let's start with the teams in the Kentucky bracket.
I'll show you just what it costs in the M.I. Crooked letter, O-U-R-I. No one can do it better.
First up, we've got the team from St. Louis, coached by Rick Wilson. Last season, Team St. Louis had a bye in the first round, but in round 2, unfortunately lost to Iowa 30-6. This year's players to watch go as follow. Number 1, Isaiah Williams, a quarterback and a cornerback. Very quick, can escape the pocket with ease, very tough athlete to defend, lightning quickness. Joining him offensively will be Justin White, a cornerback and wide receiver. Very small, only 5'5", 135 pounds, but following in the same mold as Williams, extremely quick. The top player offensively for Team St. Louis seems to be Anthony Hurd, a running back and a linebacker. He's fast, he's powerful, he's an explosive back who hits the hole with some real thunder, and at 5'8" and 180 pounds, he looks to be a next-level back for sure. Also joining them as standouts will be Darius Watson, a wide receiver. He's a brother of former East Bay Youth All-American, Elite 101 member, Freshman 450 member, and Adidas All-American, Dallas Cradieth. Very similar player at 5'10" and 150 pounds. He's explosive and fast and can make a bunch of tough catches on the outside as a wide receiver. 2 other players to look at for Team St. Louis are Jeremiah Marlin on the offensive and defensive line and Kyron Williams as another running back and defensive back. Ryan, Team St. Louis will be taking on Team Nashville. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Nashville?
Step off the bus, see off the way you came from. Grab your guitar and walk down the street. Texas, Nashville, Tennessee.
The Nashville, Tennessee team will be led by head coach Mike Jones. Last year, the Tennessee team made it to round 2 before losing to Kentucky 28-16. This is the biggest event for the state of Tennessee, as every top kid in the state comes out of this team. Leading Nashville, Tennessee team this year will be Joseph Honeysucker, who's 6'3", 225 pounds, and put up monster numbers as a defensive end. He's the highest ranked defensive end on our Elite 101 list, and last year was an East Bay Youth All-American. Joining Honeysucker will be Joseph Anderson, who's very tall, long, athletic-looking defensive lineman. He's a great pass rusher and knows how to create separation and use his body to his advantage. Another player to keep an eye on is Luke Smith, who was named an East Bay Youth All-American last year as well. He's a two-way lineman who's 6'1", 240 pounds. He was named to the All-Top Gun team this past summer in Dublin, Ohio. He's a strong, physical leader on the line who plays on both sides of the ball. On the outside, Team Tennessee will rely on Trey Knox, who's arguably the top wide receiver prospect in the entire state for the class of 2019. At 6'1", he's a feared player that has a skill set and hands better than many high school seniors in the state. A running back in Tamikis Napier is very small, only around 5'5", but he's lightning fast, very elusive, and is tough to tackle. Another player in the backfield and on the defense side of the ball will be Thomas Gore. He's played up since he was in the 6th grade and started on both sides of the ball. He's been called the next star to blown up out of this Nashville area since former Tennessee All-American John Henderson. He's a thick, bruising back who is not afraid to run through or around opposing players. Finally, the offense will be led by Spencer Smith, who's a quarterback who can lead his team to a championship. He's extremely accurate and throws a gorgeous tight spiral. The football program he comes from is one of the best in the state, and I see him coming in next year as a freshman and starting at the varsity level. Kentucky will look to repeat its success from last year as they won 2 games before they lost in the 3rd round to GFL Georgia. Led by head coach J.T. Bass, Team Kentucky does not have their team selected yet as they're still playing their middle school state championships. However, we do know a handful of players they will rely upon come this tournament. Leading the way will be Logan Hagan, who's a 6'6", 345-pound lineman. Monster kid, very big and much improved from last year. He's much more aggressive, and the team will rely upon him on the offense and defensive lines this season. Another player on the offensive side is Mikel Askew, who's a running back, who the coaches say is a mini Bo Jackson. He played in the East-West All-Star game last year and tore it up. He's 6 foot, 180 pounds, and he's our top offensive weapon. Another player to keep an eye on is Tucker Holland out of Knox County. He's a great athlete and also a big baseball recruit. He's a defensive end who stands about 6'1", 225 pounds. Finally, one of the top-rated kickers in the tournament will be Mason Malik, who will be part of this Kentucky team. He's a kid who could put a Coke can on the field and can hit it from a distance. He can kick it from 45 yards out consistently, and he played for the Ryle High School as a freshman this past season. This past year, he was 54 of 59 on PATs for the year. Finally, is Wandale Robinson from Frankfort, Kentucky. He's a 5'5", 135 pounds, and makes guys look silly. He's got great elusiveness and vision, and he's going to be used in a running back or slot position. He's also a 3-year FBU player.
That was the first regional site for the South region. Now, let's go to the ATL, where 3 teams from Georgia and 1 team from North Carolina will be facing off. Leading off is the team GFL Georgia. This is the 2-time defending champion on the 8th grade level. Coach Ken Burge has probably the most talented team in the entire FBU National Championship Tournament. But leading off is Owen Papo, a defensive end / athlete from Georgia, who plays for the Grayson Rams, one of the most talented, freakish athletes that we've ever seen on the youth level. Only a 2nd year playing football. Extremely talented, about 6'1", 200 pounds, chiseled muscle, a sub 4.8 40 time speed. Next player is another East Bay Youth All-American in KJ Wallace. He is a wide receiver / defensive back / safety / wide receiver. Wherever you got to put him, he's one of the most talented players we've ever seen in the country for the 8th grade level. Played at the Lovett School all year long for Georgia. Extremely gifted, has a big playmaking skill ability. Just somebody that you want to be careful of all the time. Another East Bay Youth All-American, Steele Chambers at a Blessed Trinity private school down there in Georgia. A running back, he's about 6 foot, 170 pounds. Extremely gifted, fast, explosive, strong, wiry. Also one of the best baseball players in the class of 2019. Somebody that you really want to watch. We'll keep it going with East Bay Youth All-Americans. Quentin Skinner is the 4th East Bay Youth All-American on this team. A long snapper, defensive lineman. Actually got a scholarship offer this summer from a D1 school. You know, we'll continue it with an East Bay Youth All-American from last year, and Alex Contreras, just an athlete and outside linebacker, a gym rat. He was an Elite 101 kid, played for the GFL champions North Gwinnett. Somebody that can make plays at whatever position you put him at. I mean, this GFL team is just extremely loaded. Other standouts from Team GFL, Ronald Tompkins, Kenyon Jackson, Ja'Cory Jones, Chilton Tolliver, Jalen Alexander, Emmanuel Mitchell, J.D. Bertrand is a big stud at tight end. Watch out for him. Riley Simmons, a big defensive lineman. He's improved so much from last year. Part of the Buford program. Just a stud. Another kid, the last kid, Cameron Brown, another Elite 101 kid, was a teammate of the aforementioned Alex Contreras with the North Gwinnett team. Just loaded from top to bottom. This roster is certainly impressive. And Ryan, the team that has the unfortunate task of playing this GFL team is a team that might surprise a ton of people with how talented and loaded they are at a first-year program, South Atlanta. Why don't you tell us about them?
Welcome to Atlanta where the players play and we ride on them things like every day. Big beats hit streets, see gangsters roaming, and parties don't stop till 8 in the morning.
South Atlanta has a handful of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, led by Paris Brown at running back. His father played at Syracuse, and he may be the best running back in the entire GMSAA conference. Last year he fought through injuries, but this year he's been a beast of a running back and will be relied upon on the offense. Another player to keep an eye on is Jalen McCullough. He'll also play running back, and he's a very gifted player which possesses speed, power, and skill, which make him an elite player. On the outside, they'll rely on Jaden Hasselwood at wide receiver, who has great size and athletic abilities to match. He can go vertical or catch a slant and take it to the house anytime. Anytime the ball's in his hand, he's a threat to score. On defense, the team will rely on Logan Jordan, who plays offensive line, defensive line, and fullback. He's a defensive end who demonstrates outstanding speed and agility. He displays a nose for the ball during the scrimmages, and the coaches were really impressed with his overall abilities. Another linebacker is Trevor Smith. He has excellent running skills, and on the defense side of the ball, he's a knack for finding the football, and he's not afraid to lay down the wood. Another linebacker is Parker Spiller, who also plays fullback. Offensively, Parker is capable of playing in the backfield or on the outside. Defensively, he's a game changer who's capable of changing the outcome of the game. Finally, Tucker McCoy is an offense and defensive lineman who is simply a man-child. He destroys the competition with his strength. Offensively, he blocks extremely well and seeks out the second-tier players, which is hard to find in the 8th grade. On the defense side of the ball, his power allows him to shed blocks and destroy the running backs.
The other matchup in the Atlanta region is South Charlotte taking on GMSAA, the Georgia Middle School Athletic Association. For Team South Charlotte, they're led by Coach Mo Evans, and this team is loaded and might be the surprise of the entire tournament coming out of this tough South bracket. Leading them will be Kobe Alexander, a 6'1", 260-pound, big, mean, offensive and defensive lineman. He has very quick feet. He's quick like a running back, but physical like a lineman. He's going to punish the opposing lineman in front of him. Another top player, Rob Casutta, 5'10", 170-pound linebacker fullback. He's your traditional middle linebacker, like a Brian Urlacher type player, like a Luke Kuechly type of player. He runs with the running backs and wide receivers, but punches you in the mouth like a linebacker. He's a national champion wrestler from the state of North Carolina, somebody that opposing offenses are going to run into all day long. Another player on that South Charlotte team, Nolan Gruhl. He was an East Bay Youth All-American last year. His brother was an East Bay Youth All-American. He made all Top Gun team this past July when we were out there in Dublin, Ohio. He played up against older competition at Top Gun, moved up with the kids headed into high school, and was still a standout. Nolan Gruhl, a fantastic offensive weapon, running back, wide receiver, or defensive weapon at defensive back and linebacker. A couple other players to watch. Tyus Fields. He's a 5'9", 145-pound running back and defensive back. He's the younger brother of U.S. Army All-American Mark Fields. So you see how the athletic genes transfer there. Another player to watch, Porter Rooks, a wide receiver, 6'1", 175-pound playmaker. His older brother, plays basketball at Clemson. Again, more bloodlines, more athletic ability. Last player to pay specific attention to will be Storm Monroe at middle linebacker. 5'9", 195. He's a complete bull. Not that 5'9's that short, but he's short and stocky, very muscular, built like a 4D battery, just thick, going to come through and hit you in the mouth. Great vision as a linebacker, a tough kid. Other South Charlotte kids to watch: Malik Barber, wide receiver, defensive back; Amin Rivera, a running back, defensive back with great speed; and especially offense and defensive lineman Latravion Davidson, offensive lineman, 6'4", 290, who the jury's still out on, but with that size, he's got some tools to work with. You know, we mentioned it before, that South Charlotte team is going to be taking on a tough GMSAA Georgia team. This team is one of the most deepest. They got a bunch of organizations in that conference, and Ryan, they got a couple studs that should not be overlooked at all. Why don't you tell us about them?
Georgia, we on the grind, Georgia, all the time. It ain't nothing on my mind, but Georgia, we ain't playing with you.
The GMSAA Georgia team will be led by head coach Charles Smith. They'll look to rebound after last year's second-round exit after they lost a tough, hard-fought battle to GFL Georgia 19-18. Leading the team this year will be running back Kamonte Jett. He's strong, fast, and a 3-star player from Roswell this year. He scored over 20 touchdowns and will probably play varsity as a freshman next year. Joining Jett at running back will be Jamias Griffin, who is an Elite 101 member and first-team All-Top Gun player. He's a physical, athletically gifted player who will look to do big things from both the running back and linebacker position this year. Joining him at linebacker will be Derica Smith, who's a vicious linebacker who reminds us of NFL All-Pro Antonio Pierce. He's a big hitter who has a knack for finding the football. They'll have a playmaker and tight end Ryan Godey, who played quarterback for Kennesaw Mountain Mustangs. He's a versatile kid at 6'5", 205 pounds. Quarterbacking the team will be Kyle Terry. He's very accurate and a dangerous quarterback who is one of the purest passers in all of Georgia for the class of 2019. Finally, athlete Dominique Blaylock, who's an East Bay Youth All-American last year, who's very athletic and scored 3 touchdowns in a game last year. He's also dangerous in a special teams game and is a son of former NBA player Mookie Blaylock.
Our next regional site takes us to West Palm Beach, Florida, where Team Gulf Coast will be taking on the host team, West Palm Beach, Florida. But for Team Gulf Coast, they'll be led by Coach Dwayne Marquise. And they got a lot of players from a bunch of different states. That Gulf Coast region is a little bit tricky. They got kids from Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and of course, Florida. And when talking about players to watch, where else would you start except with East Bay Youth All-American MVP Anwar Quell Lewis. Last year, Lewis was the MVP of the East Bay Youth All-American Bowl. Scored 3 touchdowns in the first half to help the East win. He's a great mix of speed and power as a running back and can also play defensively as a strong safety, outside linebacker, defensive back type of athlete. Other players to watch. Big Jared Marshall. He'll eat up a lot of space on the defensive line as a nose guard. Probably commands a double team both times. It'll free up the linebackers behind him. Sterling Peden, another offensive and defensive lineman from Milton, Florida. Another big body. He's good against the run, good against the pass as well. Tyler Tillman, he's a wide receiver / safety out of Louisiana. This is the type of guy they can throw a lot of screens to. He's got the ability to get upfield quickly. He's not going to beat you with too many home run threats, but if you get the ball in his hands, he can make some quick moves and definitely move the chains for you. Another player to watch out for, Jonathan Williams, wide receiver, linebacker out of Gonzales, Louisiana. 5'10", 155 pounds. Played wide receiver from St. Amant Middle School. Definitely a player to keep your eye on. Last player to watch, Jabrion Cook, a quarterback and safety out of Pensacola. Simply just gets the job done when the ball's in his hands. One last player you might want to take a look at will be Abram Smiley. He returns from the team from last year. Very athletic looking prospect. And Coach Brahms noted that he has all the strength and speed you could ask for in the running back, linebacker, and cornerback position. But for Gulf Coast, they're taking on a new team this year, West Palm Beach. Rye, we've talked to their coaches before. Tell us a little bit about who to look out for on that West Palm Beach team.
Led by head coach Kevin Justice, they're a new team on the block this year in an already crowded state of Florida. However, they have some playmakers and may surprise a few teams this season. Leading the way will be quarterback Gio Richardson, who measured in at 5'11", 160 pounds. He's a very quick and versatile athlete who ran a 4.8 in the 40-yard dash. At running back, we'll have Daquan Hamilton, who passes the eye test with a lean, athletic body and tested off the charts with a 4.8 40, an 8.8 in the broad jump, and a 4.8 in the shuttle run. On the defense side of the ball, Henry Bryant III is a defensive tackle and is as strong as they come in the country on the interior defensive line, but also has the quickness of a running back. He's a nephew of former U.S. All-American and current Florida State defensive tackle Keith Bryant. Kyle Van Putenvink is a 5'9", 170-pound linebacker who can play either inside or outside with his combo of speed and power. He will also see some reps at fullback on the offense side of the ball. Another linebacker is Dwayne Williams, who's a former West Boynton, Florida League All-Star, and really knows how to elevate his game when playing against other top competition.
The other matchup in the West Palm Beach regional site will be Dade County taking on Jacksonville. For Dade County, this is an interesting dynamic. Last year, Team South Florida, which was made up of Broward and Dade County, won the FBU National Championship Tournament on the 7th grade team. Now, all those dominant athletes are split between two counties. Head coach is Shanton Crummy, a talented Pop Warner coach down there in Dade County. They have a couple guys to look out for. They have Jorge Bays, a running back. Look for him to make a bunch of plays offensively. Joining him on the offensive side of the ball, Dalen Menard. He's a quarterback. He's big into the 7-on-7 scene down there. Also, wide receiver Miles Smith. On the line, Antonio Serrano should be their go-to and anchor on the offensive line, while Byron Rainstorm leads the pack on defense at linebacker. If you from a city, holla Duval.
Another new team to this year's event is Jacksonville, Florida. Led by head coach Sharon Dorsey, they have one of the best players in the class of 2019 leading the team. Tucker Talbot, who reclassified at quarterback, is one of the best players in the country at this position. He can throw with the best players in the country, standing at 6'1", 175 pounds. However, if the pocket breaks down, he also has the ability to run the ball and make players miss. He's a real dual threat player who's going to be a challenge for opposing defenses. Another quarterback who is a dual threat on the team is Ty Lavati. At wide receiver, the team will rely on Brian Martin, who will also play safety. He has great hands and promising speed. Playing running back for the team will be Jalen Brown, who's natural at both running and catching the ball out of the backfield and is a threat to score anytime he touches the ball. Other players to keep an eye on are Griffin Helm, who's a quarterback, Terrence Johnson at wide receiver, and another wide receiver, and Matthew Drayton. Finally, on the offensive line is Howard Ford, who's a big offensive lineman at 6 foot, 310 pounds, who has great footwork and lateral quickness for a big guy. He's surprisingly athletic and a great pass blocker.
Moving on to Naples, Florida. The host site will be a regional site as well, and here we feature Broward County taking on Central Florida. For Broward County, much of that South Florida team that won the FBU National Championship last year is back with the team Broward County. They will be head coached by Jerry Scalzo, one of the most popular coaches down there in South Florida in the Miami area. Starting it off, I don't know where else you would start except James Cook, 5'10", 175-pound running back, linebacker, defensive end, strong safety. Line the kid up anywhere in the country. He will be a D1 player, and I think he's the most talented player in the entire country for the class of 2019. Joining him on this Broward County team, Naquan Wright, 5'7", 180-pound running back. Runs like a pinball. He's a regular season teammate of James Cook. Joining them is yet a third teammate from the regular season team, also a third teammate from last year's national championship team, Lorenzo Floyd, an athlete. He was ranked in the Elite 101 as well. 6 foot, 175, also a track star. We're just going to keep throwing studs on there. We're going to go to Christopher Bennystad. They call him White Chocolate. He's a wide receiver. He's extremely athletic. He was the go-to wide receiver for Team South Florida last year. This year, he's bringing it back to Broward. Other kids to look out for, Nicholas Scalzo, 5'9", 170, just knows how to get the ball into the hands of his playmakers. Defensively, Mason Bonowitz, 6 foot, 175, solid linebacker, somebody that's going to make a difference immediately as a freshman, probably starting next year at varsity. And the last player to take a look at for Broward is going to be Big Anthony Solomon, 5'9", 180, defensive tackle, linebacker. Rye, I know I said a mouthful, but why don't you tell us a little bit about what Central Florida can do and who the studs are to combat Broward County.
Welcome to Orlando, where the music jam flow. Welcome to Orlando, but we off the chain.
Head coach Bernard Morris will lead his Central Florida team into this year's event with a pair of Elite 101 players. Malik Prylu is a defensive back, wide receiver, running back who is ranked in Elite 101, who's a very fast, athletic player who plays Pop Warner down in Florida. Another player is Victor Vega, who is a linebacker, who's a great player, also plays Pop Warner in Florida, and was the MVP of the 2014 Future Star Game in Florida. Joining the pair of Elite 101 players is quarterback Michael Kern, who is impressive through tryouts, throws a very beautiful ball, and was 29 of 40 for 516 yards and 6 touchdowns in his first 5 games through the 2014 season. Keontae Harrison is a nice-sized linebacker that can anchor the defense in the middle. Taquan Paneas is a running back who's extremely quick and very shifty at running back. He's a lighter back, but if he gets through a hole, he has some great wheels to get past the defense. Finally, the last player to keep an eye on is Kayshawn King.
The other matchup at the Naples Regional site will feature Southwest Florida taking on Team Sarasota, Florida. For Team Southwest Florida, we got some talented players here. We got 150 kids coming out for the 8th grade team for about 35-40 spots, so you know the level of competition is going to be very good. The player you're going to start out with to look out for, Cesar Malozzi. We're talking 6 foot, 170 pounds. Scariest thing about him is he's a young 8th grader. He was 12 years old when this season started, and he's dominating that Southwest Florida Youth Football League. He's fast, he's long, he's lean. Once he gets into a high school lifting program, he's going to easily add on 30 pounds, and he should be looking at D1 offers in the next 12 months to be at the most. Other players to take a look at, Henderson Francois, a running back. While Maluzzi is tall and long, Francois is short and compact. Both are fast, both are athletic. Those skill positions for Southwest Florida are going to be a tough out for any defense to play against. Another player to take a look at is Jeremy Barrett, 6'1", 170, a wide receiver. It looks like he's got that Dwight Howard build. It looks like he swallowed a clothes hanger. His shoulders are all out to the side. Very lean though, very muscular. Somebody that's going to be a deep threat, but he's also going to not be afraid to go across the middle and make a bunch of catches there. Just somebody that the quarterback will love if he gets under pressure. Speaking of quarterbacks, that's where Seneca Millage comes in. And I can't say enough about this kid. Virtually unknown to me until just recently. The nickname is Speedy. I've watched film on him. I've watched track and football film on him. And he is one of the fastest kids I have ever seen on the Youth Football League. He's not the biggest. I'm going to go with an estimate here of 5'7", 5'8", 140. But when I tell you he is one of the fastest kids, I mean, I think he's going to be pushing 4.5, 4.55, 4.6 in the 40-yard dash on an electronic time. I love Seneca Millage. Right, that's all I got about Southwest Florida. Why don't you tell us about Sarasota, Florida?
Finally, we're taking a look at Sarasota, Florida, who's led by head coach Randy Kopp. Leading this team is one of the best running backs we have seen recently in Ali Boyce, who's 5'6", 170 pounds, runs with speed and bounces off tackles, and is one of the top backs in the South. He'll be joined by playmaker Charles Ward, who's a wide receiver who didn't play last year, but is arguably the fastest athlete in the area that Team Sarasota can choose from and should be a nice weapon as a receiver. A pair of linebackers in Tron Thomas and Julian Lowenstein will anchor a defense. Thomas is a linebacker that didn't play last year either, but is expected to be an absolute beast for the Team Sarasota this year. Lowenstein is a tough kid that plays sideline to sideline and knows how to deliver a hit. One player that may surprise some people this tournament is Tony Register. He's a big kid at 6'4", 250 pounds, and will play offensive tackle and defensive end. He's also a top 2019 basketball player and is rated one of the best in the country. Other players to keep an eye on include Zy Grable, who's an athletic quarterback that can move around in the pocket, Tamonte Rainey, who's a defensive back running back who's very explosive and can make big plays, wide receiver Devin Gardner, who's a great-looking receiver, Jalen Clark, a running back and linebacker, and finally, Tyler Burnham, who's a defensive end, who's a big, tall kid with a lot of potential and long reach.
So those are all 16 teams and their top players from the South bracket. Stay at youth1.com for coverage of the FBU National Championship and all things youth football. And don't forget to get in on the action yourself. Sign up for a Youth One player profile and get noticed by us today. For Ryan Lance, my man on the West Coast. For myself, Al Pops, we'll see you on the next region.